You know, in science, the leading edge is always pulled back by the more conservative middle. Do you understand what that means?
Yeah.
That those that are taking the risks out on the edge tend to be scorned and ridiculed by those who are a bit safer and able to take pot shots.
Uh-huh.
It actually moved. Whatever was out there moved his tent, shook it. He said it shook. And it freaked him out. Yes. And he had that experience, and it freaked him out, and took us to, that's the place he had his sighting. We were camping at his site, which makes so much more sense to me now that I have seen that location. From hearing his experience to seeing where the experience happened, there's a point in his story where he says one did a fake rush on him, and I always wondered how come he couldn't see it coming, or how come he couldn't see it? Well, that area was so thick, there's no way you couldn't see it.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind.
If Bigfoot comes to light, then you're going to have a lot of stuff for people to look at. But until then, if you have to circle, like you said, circle it, or show somebody what's in the picture, then that picture means nothing. You should be able to look at that picture and see it. The PNG, it's either a Bigfoot or it's a man in a suit. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's not a stump. It's walking upright. It's one of the two. That's it, right? That's what we need more of.
Hey, it's Mike.
Hello.
It's the Lord of O.R.D. And I got a new guest, Nikki Collins. Nikki, thank you for joining me, and thank you for your patience. Apparently, I screwed up the time. So it's my fault. I'll take full responsibility for this one. I know we talked about it. It's supposed to be 2 o'clock your time, 12
my time. You're
2
on
o'clock my time. Right, that's right. So
Yeah.
2 o'clock my time, 12 your times, and I got it all mixed up. So I apologize.
Yeah. I was thinking noon mountain and no, but I was ready. I was already here doing some.
No, you're the professional, the consummate professional. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's see who we got here. First, we got the Batman. How you doing?
Yeah.
The tall ones. You know him? Okay.
Yeah. They're my peeps. I send out a quick message. Hey, I'm going on live now. Hopefully I can get a few people.
So it's totally my screw up, and I apologize for that. So just to let anybody know, this is on my end of things about Nikki. If you got, first of all, she's got YouTube channel Sasquatch Secrets. So hopefully she'll reveal some of those secrets to us. You can find her on Facebook.
I'm going to, if you allow me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stream this to my channel as well, and hopefully bring in some more people.
That's up to you. You're free to do that. So how I discovered Nikki was through Linda Eastburn. So what happened was I watched hers her interview, which is right here, 10 days ago. And I said, I like this gal. I like her critical thinking and her willing to ask questions. And then it turned out that 2 days later, she interviewed me. My interview with Linda showed up. So, that's all synchronicity, I guess. And so I was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation. So, so Nikki, thank you. We had a couple conversations, private conversations, and I'm like, well, I like this gal. So first of all, who is Nikki Cole?
Well, I'm just a girl who likes to talk about Bigfoot, you know.
Okay, that's pretty normal right there. Sure.
I'm not like anybody else, you know. I grew up reading the books and watching, you know, the documentaries that just grabbed you back in the 70s, and it kind of, I've always been interested in that type of cryptids and stuff like that. But it really took when I lived abroad in South Korea, and I didn't have channels, English channels, but like 9. So I took this deep dive into watching YouTube. And I watched everything there was about Bigfoot, tall man, hairy man, everything, and was just totally intrigued by it. But during that time, I came across this problem that I thought the same pictures over and over, and they were being shared multiple times in different social media sites, and people were tending to make up new stories and new narratives for each of these photos. And I'm like, wow, that's not right. You know, we know where that came from. That was debunked last year for, you know, and it had to do with this or that. And so when I came stateside, I just started talking about it. I started to be open about my feelings about Bigfoot, Sasquatch evidence, and how I don't think that's the first place you should go to when you see something or hear something. And it should just, in my world, it should be the last thing you're thinking about. I think you should go through the whole process of vetting what your evidence is before making it public. I'm not saying don't do that. I think everybody has their own journey.
That's for sure.
With this topic, you know? I'm a believer. I am 100% a believer that Bigfoot exists. I just am an evidence skeptic. I don't believe half the stuff that's out there or being presented as evidence is real. It's okay. I'm
That's fair
fine.
enough. I'm worse than you on that. I think that 99% of everything that we present is not Bigfoot. And I'm a Bigfoot researcher, and I'm out in the field, and the things that I'm discovering and what I'm experiencing are not Bigfoot. And I share that with people who are close to me. So believe it or not, although it might be hard to accept coming from a guy like me, but you know, it's what's going on there. So yeah, I find fascinating. So how long have you been in the Bigfoot community?
Oh, probably around since 2012, 2011, you know, is when I really started to make friends and talk in chats and blogs and stuff like that. But it wasn't until 2013 or 14 that I started being asked to be on podcasts, because I had my own channel, but it really didn't have a whole lot to it. Just some outings that I would do and going out in the woods and just talking about things that were coming up in the community. And it wasn't like the show I have now, which it's a little over 2 years that I've had the Sasquatch Secrets podcast or YouTube show. So And I just like to bring a panel of guests on, and we discuss the more nefarious stuff happening in the Bigfoot community, the hoaxes, the hoodwinks, the
It's a big
stuff
part of
people
it.
don't want to talk about, frankly. And that's, I kind of had a really simple mission in mind, and I always say that, is that we just want to talk about the deceits, the historical incidents that have formed the community, the Bigfoot community. And I like to have fun with it. I'm not so hardcore that I can't crack a joke or, have fun with it at the same time, because this is my hobby. It's my fun place to go to. So, I try to make light of it. It's that's what I do.
So it's interesting. Because from my own observation, it's like you said, well, for me, it's like it's a very personal thing. I've discovered a lot of things about not only the Bigfoot community, but about the whole situation, the correlations between the Bigfoot community. I call it Bigfootery, ufology, the paranormal. They all blend in here, and there's a lot of the same things are going on, whether it's the hoaxes or there's the people with different experiences. It's very fragmented and volatile. It's very interesting. Actually, and it's in my background also studying religion. It's the connections, the correlations between religion, cults, and Bigfootery are shocking to me. Truly are shocking. And I hope I don't intend to offend anybody about this. And not point fingers any in particular, because I think we're all, where we're at in this whole thing. And for me, it's so subjective, and it's so like my personal experience that I have encounters, and I don't expect anybody to believe my encounters, because my encounters don't add up to what happened in the Patterson film or what everybody else says. The funny thing is about this, Nikki, is this: the experts say there's no experts, and then they go along acting like they're the experts. Do you understand what I just said there?
Yeah, that does tend to happen, and at least everybody's saying it. I mean, at least.
So it's kind of like, in a way, they're negating. We are negating ourselves and our own opinions and our own position on things by saying that. That's my observation of things. But I find it fascinating to someone like you who got interested in this stuff, and we had a talk, and you said you don't feel it necessary that you maybe have had an encounter. You might have had one. I've heard about maybe outside the tent, the footsteps, right?
Oh yeah, I just call it an experience. I don't know what it was. It was weird. Could have been a bear. There were things about it that I don't feel indicated a bear. I just think bears make noise. I think they snort and they sniff and they scratch, and that was not there. There was not that. So, and there were other people. There were two other people in tents next to me that also experienced something that night. So, makes things that make you go
Isn't
But
so much of it is that things that make you go
right.
And we all end up developing our own assumptions, opinions, hypothesis. But as far as a working theory, I mean, do we really have one? What is okay? Let's get to this point. What is Bigfoot, Nikki? What the hell is a Bigfoot? We spend all this time hanging out with the Bigfooters and the Bigfootery. I mean, tell us what it is.
So, okay. Everybody has their own belief system, okay? And I believe in flesh and blood. I'm at a point right now in this whole area that I believe it's flesh and blood. It's real. It's something I can touch. It's something tangible. And for me to do that, I believe that let's look at the evidence. Okay. Take it from all the evidence. It's a bipedal, hairy hominid that exists somewhere in that ladder of life. Okay. And I totally, for now, have pushed aside any type of we've had this discussion you and I before, paranormal or something that's not can't touch, okay,
Right.
or the spiritual, putting that aside, and putting what was the other one I was going to mention? The main woo type of stuff that we say that, and for lack of a better term, but it's, for me, it's that I have to be able to track where this fell in evolution. You have your creationist theory as well, where people think, it's from the Bible and Nephilim and this and that, which I don't see a connection there either.
No, there's
But
none. There is none, actually. If you actually study
yeah,
the Bible, you'll know that. You have to come to.
I'm glad we agree on that one. But for me, somewhere in between a million years ago, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, somewhere something went into its own line. I do believe it's in the Homo
Was it
genus.
the
I do
emphasis
not.
on this? Before you continue, I just want to appreciate it. But you're saying I do believe, and that's
Mhm.
the important thing in all this, right?
Yeah,
You
it's my
just
opinion.
right. But you
Yeah.
brought up, because you said, because it's something that I can touch, but I don't know anybody. Well, the two people that I do know that claim they've touched Bigfoot, it's just a claim.
Right.
And they don't really define or just explain what or describe what they've touched. They
Mhm.
just say they've touched it. So the point when you said I have to something I could be able to touch. This is the problem that we're dealing with on all sides, all camps, all whatever you fall in this thing, I can touch. And
So my
we don't have the
same
physical evidence outside
just
of to really say that one way or the other, right?
right. So
That's
I
our
go off of that by saying that a lot of people are claiming there is physical evidence. That physical evidence being footprints, hair, the tree structures, all this. And this is all stuff that I'm very skeptical about. But, right, there are definite prints that are being found, thousands and thousands of prints. Can
right.
all of them be created hoaxes? I kind of doubt that. What
Yeah.
about all the encounter stories? They're not all made up, BS. So you've got this small area of evidence that may be real. And those are real things. They are, we go out and we look for prints. Are they double bear steps? I don't know. I'm not a tracker. But you look for the evidence. You look for the broken trees and stuff that don't make sense because they're this way and that way, and nobody could lift this or break this down. It doesn't look like snow load. It doesn't look like somebody used a saw to cut it down. And you just take it all and put it into your own research, your own data. Okay. It's all data. But should you release all that? I don't know. That's where I have an issue with people who share a lot of their pictures and videos, and it's because I don't think we need to share as much as you think. Now, if you have a Bigfoot photo and there's a clear Bigfoot walking across in front of you, heck yeah, we want to see that. We want to see that. But it is rare to have a video like the Patterson Gimlin footage, like the Freeman footage. There are few in between, and many come out to be fake. And there are some where there's people who are 50-50. You know, I tend to be, well, I believe it because of this, and I don't believe it because of this. You know, I go back and forth on a lot of this stuff. And that's okay. It is okay to have your take on it. But now you get a lot of people who are very, very strong in their belief of this is real and you have to believe it because of this, you know. He would never hoax anybody. That's why you need to believe this.
We do get a bit dogmatic, that's for sure. Yeah, see, let's put this. So this was it. So the Batman says, would a person experience of a face-to-face, wouldn't that be considered evidence, even though a person can lie, but all the occurrences with people's experiences? Well, first of all, I would say, you guys don't have to believe me. In fact, I don't expect you to, because my experiences, my encounters are unbelievable. But I've had, well, pretty much face-to-face. I had it got 15 feet in front of my grill, along with Crow Indian mess man standing next to me. So back in 2017. So that's the reason why I know there's such a thing. Well, let's put this just the thing that I saw, based on what everybody else says is a Bigfoot, was a Bigfoot. Based on what everybody else says, a Bigfoot is that's what I saw. How the hell am I going to prove that to you? I ain't going to be able to prove that to you in a million years. And so that's part of this. This part of this is, I call it, to be honest with you, this shit show is called Bigfootery, because you know what? It's like it's endless circumstances. You know, it's like all the stuff that I've experienced and I've encountered and things I've filmed, and it's like, you know, I think shared that with you. I said automatically 50% of people aren't going to believe you. Then the other 50 are going to be questioning about everything under the sun. So by the time you're all done with it all, you're left alone with your encounters and your own experiences, and you have to somehow come to terms with it and come to terms with everything around you, with this world. And it parallels literally, Nikki, with the ufology and that community and the people's experiences when it comes to UFOs or alien abductions or the paranormal. It's like all this stuff we cannot prove to each other definitively that what we're experiencing, what we're seeing, what we're dealing with is exactly what everybody claims it is. If we're honest about the situation, right? Even the footprints are, you know, I mean, you know, all the footprints and very impressive. And you're saying, well, you know, hey, what else could it be? And you're like, yeah, you're right. What else could it be but a Bigfoot? But then it also could be something. Well, there's also to that possibility it could be something completely different. And until we have something really solid, besides, like, I mean, the best we got is Patterson film, the Freeman film. It's just pretty weak and it's all right. And then on and on it goes. It's just shadowy figures to people seeing things and then leaving footprints. But I mean, it goes on. I'm not trying to be like discourage anybody or anything like this, or even discourage your belief. I'm just saying, if we're going to be honest about this, we have to be honest with this on all camps and everything and where we're at. I mean, wouldn't you agree? I mean, I think that's what you're saying, basically.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I don't have issues with people having different ideas of where Bigfoot lies. That's their own thing, their own journey, and more power to them. Okay, where I fall is that, like Thomas Steamboat would say, you know, stick to the facts, only the facts. And thou shalt not hoax.
But it's not. It's not going to happen in this community. It's not going to happen in the community.
That is what's putting a damper on all of this. Is that there is a large amount of people out there who are just having fun at our expense. They're out there continually making shit up, making videos, going out there with the same damn suit that they've used for the last 10 years, Sunny Vader, and put out, new people are just, yeah, that's great. Look at his face. Look at that big afro. Look at, it's ridiculous that people in today's society, all you have to do is screenshot and drop it into Google Image, folks. That's it. And you will come up with several different answers to, wow, that's amazing, to, oh my God, that guy used that 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to help people
It's
realize.
kind of like too, if like for people like me who have had experience or are filming things, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So the reason why I reach out, the reason why I share the images that I film and all that is it's more cathartic and therapeutic, knowing full well that people are going to call me everything under the sun. But what do I do about it? Do I hide in this fear of what other people think about me, about whether or do I just say, I'm just leave myself out as an open book, hopefully that I might get some answers to something that maybe in the day I will never get any answers. None of us will ever get any absolute answers to this situation.
Well, the people who have answers are the people who have seen them. Okay. They are on a whole different plane. Yes, Jay, well, I probably have two J's, I think, maybe okay. You see it. You're past the point of where many of us are.
Talking about Jay Fritz?
Yeah, Jay Fritz has had an amazing encounter. Jay Birch, I don't know if I saw him.
Yes, Jay, please come on our show, Sasquatch Confessions and Friends, and share your encounter.
And people will not believe those either, but it's not our place for that belief, okay, to not believe them. They had that encounter. We weren't there.
That's true.
All you can do is listen and let them talk their piece, and you either yourself believe it or not believe it, right? But there's no way to prove any of that. Encounter stories are a funny thing, okay? They are out there. Some people use it to get it out and to help them overcome something traumatic. That may be a traumatic encounter they had.
And mine were terribly traumatic.
So, who are we to say that, it had never happened or that? Now, with that being said, there are also things that can happen during somebody's encounter that you go, what? You just said that it was full moon and it was raining, or it was this and that, and that's not true. So the red flags, something to think about for the next time they say they had an encounter is just keep your head on a swivel about some of these things, because that can lead you into other avenues of trying to see if somebody's credible. If somebody sticks to the same story, are they changing their story every time they go to a different podcast? Is all of a sudden something new added? I don't know. These are things I try to pay attention to, and not everybody cares. Half of the Bigfoot community, they just want to come and have fun and listen to stories and to be friends, to make friends and be here to chat in the chats and not think about regular life,
I do. I mean, when I told you when I first started this 2017, my goal was to disprove or to prove that the whole thing about Bigfoot was a government psyop. And this is how none of it adds up. So within 6 months, and I put a lot of time into the research and everything. The next thing, within 6 months, I'm actually having an encounter with what people call a Bigfoot. And then I'm like, damn, I mean, what am I do now? I mean, I talked a little bit about it, but not much. I kept a lot to myself because I like seeing the behavior of other people around me who call themselves or Bigfooters or people who are experts in the Bigfoot community, because my experience didn't add up to what all the experts said it was going to happen. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm like screwed. This is like worse than I ever imagined it's going to be. You know what I mean? Yeah, because it's a life altering experience. What's that?
they always say that, be careful what you wish for. People who have had encounters, they'll say, be careful what you wish for, because you may not like what you get.
And the worst part of it all is it's actually the reaction of other people, human being. If you want to learn a lot about human nature and and how people behave, if you have an encounter with a Bigfoot or something similar to that, even it could be something. I mean, there's people that have had allegedly encounters with aliens and all that, and the crap that they go through for opening up their mouth and saying something about it. You know what I mean? And then there's always then the people that are going to try to capitalize the whole damn thing, all right, and make a book about it and try to, and they'll twist the story and try to make a buck out of the whole thing just so they can make a name for themselves. But then there's also other people that are serious, investigators who, there's a lot of people out there that are serious investigators that just might be wrong, but they believe in, like you said, you brought it up, that they have this belief in it, that it's what they're operating, it's the bias that they're operating on, but they believe in that. But that doesn't mean in the day they're not wrong. You know what I mean? That's one of the things. It's like, from my experience, it's like, I mean, I think I told you that for me, from my experience, this stuff it blends or blurs the line between physical and non-physical, between that which was my rational background and from science, ecology and environmental science, to what we call, if you guys want to call, the woo, or some people call supernatural or interdimensional, or whatever word you want to put as a placeholder. Something doesn't add up. That's the problem. It doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. And it's like, there's a lot of us are like, we're stuck in the middle, right? Or we just want to know the answers. We don't want to join a group. We don't want to be part of some kind of this group or that group. We just want to know the answers. We want to know what the hell we went through. And we get that shit kicked out of us. We get beat up, and it's true. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it happen all the time. It makes it harder for people to come out with their encounters, because they have that fear that they're going to get knocked right down for anything they say.
Well, you will. So just anybody who's thinking about it or is on the fence, you will get, but you have to make a decision. I mean, just to stand on that hill, it's a hill that you want to die on. It's just something that you really want to, that's worth it enough for you. Mm-hmm. I think that somebody should take that into consideration for a lot of us, is that, for us to open up our mouths and share our experiences and be willing to do that, because I like this stuff, there ain't no money for, I don't know about you, Nikki, but if you made any money doing this, I've lost tons of money. I mean, just to do this and just to talk to you and other people on the internet has cost me $100 just in the past 2 months. I'm not getting any money off this. No one's saying, thank God Mike showed up. Here's all the money. You know what I mean?
I know it does cost money, to put on podcasts, to keep upgrading so that you don't get fuzzy picture, that, it does. And I just had this show about money and Bigfoot, and I have no issue with anybody trying to get a dime off of Bigfoot. It makes no difference, and it's really none of our business if somebody wants to be monetized or not monetized. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with greed or any of that most of the time.
Okay, do you know anybody, Nikki? You've been around. Do you know anybody who's become a millionaire through Bigfootery?
No, not a millionaire. No, there are some that are making bank and can support their families with podcasting, mostly podcasting. YouTube, there's very little money in it unless you have hundreds of thousands of subs, and views. But podcasting is a whole new thing that has come into play, and you get a million followers over there, you're probably doing okay. So
I mean, I guess like the Steve Isdales of the world making some money, making some bank, but the rest of us, Well, I know I never did for the money, so and I'm not going to do it for the money. I mean, it'd be nice if somebody donated a little bit to help pay for the stuff, but if they don't, they don't. You know what I mean? It's still not going to stop. You know what I
You
mean?
have a lot of different avenues to make money, expeditions and festivals, conferences, a bunch of stuff, selling memorabilia, which I don't have any problem with because I love to buy all the Bigfoot stuff. But it, it just depends, are people, is $6,000 too much to charge for an appearance? If somebody's willing to pay it, then who's,
I mean, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't pay anybody. But if somebody else wants to do this, it's their business, not my business, right?
it is. Now, yeah, there's cost. You have airline costs and lodging and food and car rentals and all of that these days. Shoot, that's a lot of money right there. I went to Washington and rented a truck for a week, and that was over $600 just for that, for having a truck so I could get up to the mountain. It costs money.
Everything costs money, doesn't it? It's nothing.
For a hobby, that's a lot. And don't even put in the equipment that you start purchasing, and you get one and you're like, oh, this one's not good enough, and get another one, and then get the next one and the next. It's unending. There's unending equipment that you can get for this type of stuff, cameras and audio and tents, and oh my goodness, it can add up. It can definitely add up.
I guess, well, but like you said, it's like more of a. I mean, a lot of these. I'm going to ask you a question. You better, if you're expeditions in quotes, is it really an expedition, or is it just a chance to hang out with friends or make new friends? I mean,
right.
I mean, is it really an expedition? I mean, in your book,
for which one? Are you talking about something specific, or?
Well, I mean, you've been on a couple. I think you've been on a couple of expeditions or campouts or going to places. I mean,
yeah,
really
in Washington. Yeah, we called it a shindig because we were getting together with friends, people we had done podcasts with and had become friends. And Jay Birch, he's a barbecue guy. So he wanted to cook for a bunch of us. And we go, hey, let's just get together, go out to Mount St. Helens for 5 days to the place where Jay had his sighting. And we can walk around and do our own little expedition. That's just going out there and having fun.
Well, I do like the fact that you put it in quotes. I'd like to appreciate that very much, because that's being honest with that. You know what I mean? It's
and we never labeled it really expedition. I may have put it on a couple of my videos, but what else, hike. We were hiking every day, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, in the middle of the night, 11 midnight. We were out there tromping around on the side of the mountain. So, take it for what you're worth. I don't call myself a researcher. I think I'm an investigator. I like to investigate. And maybe if
let me ask you what the differences of that is then. What's the difference between somebody who investigates?
A researcher keeps detailed logs, keeps track of things like the weather, where they're at, why they're at, what the GPS coordinates are. What did you find? What animals did you see? Did you see food? All of this has to be logged and kept in journals. And I was going to do that. And it's harder than you think, because if you don't immediately come back from that day and write it down in your little journal, things start to fade really fast. And that's what you saw Thomas Steenberg doing. At the end of our little hikes, he would come back and he'd pull out his journal and he would be sitting there writing down everything that he had encountered. I don't know what it said. I didn't go over there and take a peek, but that's a researcher, okay, to me, is that. And I trust
forms of documentation. There's the written, and then there's the photographic now because of new technology and digital. So, and
my journals over there. I had a journal to write everything that happens, but it's just harder. I'm more interested in just going out there right now and seeing what I see and documenting it on video. You know, coming back, make a couple of really nice little videos about it, get people who have become my friends, who are out there, my followers, and give them a nice video to watch. And maybe they can come along on my journey. That's what I like to do. And I put out stuff about my personal vacations. I don't just put, me tromping around in the Sacramento mountains over here. I take them on little expeditions of my own, going out to mountain roller coasters and doing zip lines. And I love all that stuff. And I want to share it with people. Maybe I overshare, I don't know. But from the feedback I get, people like to see that. They like to see the change. They like to see me out there, because a lot of people can't get out there.
I don't know if you're just sharing your journey. I don't know how do you define oversharing there? If you just make it clear, you're just sharing your journey. I mean,
somebody will always pick on something. Okay,
that's true. That's
always find something wrong with what you're doing. It's all about having that thick skin and being able to let it just roll off your back. Sometimes I can do that and sometimes I can't. Sometimes things hurt. Words hurt sometimes. And, that's why I got a great bunch of followers who they know when that happens, because I get text messages. Are you okay? Are you doing okay? Remember where my best friend Brent Dill there in the chat will constantly tell me, remember the source, remember where it's coming from.
Well, first and foremost, it's coming from flawed human beings like all of us, right? So that's something you got to take into consideration. So, even those who do meticulous, detailed documentation are still flawed human beings, or have their own biases that they have to deal with and that we have to deal with. So it's like, and then at the end of the day, we're still at the same point anyways, aren't we, Nikki?
Yeah, we're at the same point.
Even with all the detailed documentation, we're still in the same position. Which is, I find that's one of the fascinating aspects about this. And this is why I keep bringing back this correlation between ufology and paranormal research or investigations, is because they parallel so much in the outcomes and the conclusions and the dynamics, especially socially and between human beings, and the volatile, fragmented nature of it, and the marginalization. Many of us, I notice a lot of us are very marginalized people, maybe from the beginning or during the process. We do become marginalized, if that makes any sense. We might find our little cliques or groups to join, but in the end of the day, we're far from being anything close to mainstream.
Yeah. People, we tend to forget that we're the small group in the population, and the rest of the people think we're nutty, that we're crazy for believing that there's this creature walking out in the woods. They don't want to hear that stuff. They don't want us to ruin their vacation camping. They don't want anything to do with that.
And it's interesting, then you add that, compound that with our own little subculture, we end up calling each other nutty.
Oh yeah, that's so,
I mean, I'm sorry if I'm laughing, because this stuff, after all the 7 years I've gone through, I've done my tears already, so all I can do at this point is laugh about the whole damn thing, because it's just, and I know it's not trying to be.
Right? It's better to be laughing about this and the different opinions and the different things that are going on than to be angry about it, or to resort to calling people names and stuff like that. If you don't like something, move on. There's 1,000 other channels out there you could watch.
It's like Baskin Robbins, right? It's different, many flavors of ice cream, right?
Trust me, there is somebody out there doing a show that's going to be right up your alley. You will find it. You just have to sift through what you don't like.
But it's interesting, though, the personal, how people take it so personally. Why do you think that is? Why do people, especially why do people take it so personally? Is somebody else's experience or their perception or how they perceive things, what their opinion is. But if it's diametrically opposed to theirs, why do they take it so personally about something that's really in a day is very subjective? Why do you think that is?
I wish I knew that answer. I really do. But I don't know if people make Bigfoot their life. They make it their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's their life, and becomes their identity.
It's kind of like religion. That's why I call it the religion of Bigfoot. I'm not trying to be insulting everybody, but if you compare just some religious studies and then compare that with what's going on in the Bigfoot community, it's very dogmatic. It's very religious. And, if you don't see it their way, it's like, well, you're pretty much, it's equivalent. You're going to hell. You're being led by the devil himself. You know what I mean? I'm being figurative about that. I'm just being facetious. But I think you guys get my point. My point is that we very intolerant of everyone else's experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I try not to be. I have a very strong opinion, and I think sometimes I intimidate people. But that's not a me problem. That's a you problem.
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with having strong opinions as long as you're civil about it. That's why I liked you. I mean, I listened to this gal on Linda's show, and like, you know what? I might not necessarily agree with everything that woman said, but what does it matter? What does it matter if you agree or not?
That was my whole point. It does. We all have our own opinions. It's okay. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. If you want to say something to me, then refute my words, the ones that are coming out of my mouth, not the way I look or the people I hang out with or how that stuff. That's petty,
Yeah, there's a lot of this ad hominem attacks and personal attacks and calling people all sorts of names. And and there's some people out there that they've been around the block long enough to know better to do that. I just don't understand why they do that. Why do they go to that point where they have to do all this ad hominem attacks? I mean, actually, if you're dealing with another critically thinking person, the only thing you're doing by attacking that other person is you're really it's the old adage, right? You point one finger at someone, there's three pointing back at you. And that's what happens when you do that. And I think that if there's one thing that's jeopardizing the Bigfoot community, in quotes, or communities, is that whole idea of these personal ad hominem attacks, and it causes people not to trust, especially if you're new into this. If you had new encounters and you try to share your encounter, and the next thing you know, and I don't know if it's as bad as it was in 2000, like 7 years ago, or 2000. It is terrible in 2017, 2018. I think people are a little more tolerant, but maybe it's because now we have all these little cliques and little groups to go to, and they call it limited hangouts, right? So you get to go hang out your own. But the problem is if you do that, then you could be missing vital information in your own journey, your own research or investigation, as you call it, to have a better understanding of what we're dealing with, right? So if you're always stuck in that limited hangout, that one little group, you're not willing to listen to the other side, which I noticed with you, Nikki, you're willing to do it. You're flesh and blood camp, and you're devout in that. You're still willing to talk to a person like me, or seeing some of this even, way. I feel I'm in the middle. Other people will say otherwise, but I'm like right in the middle, right? That's where I'm at. That's how I see myself. Now, others will see myself otherwise. But this whole thing about what I mean by the middle is that between the quote unquote woo group and the flesh and blood group. I'm like, I had my
may change throughout their journey. They may change, And like I had mentioned to you, if I'm out in the woods and I freaking see a Bigfoot pop out of a tree, it's going to change what I think. It's going to change how I...
Funny you said that, because that's what happened to me. I swear to God. But then again, as much as I tell you that that's what happened, I cannot expect you to believe me that when I say that I saw a Bigfoot pop out of a tree, I can't expect you to believe that because it's unbelievable. Because when I had
And
the experience, it
that's
was
the
like, what the
difference.
hell has
You are
happened?
saying, you know, you've said your truth. This happened to me, but I don't. If you don't believe me, that's fine. That's what's missing. Okay, to me,
I
is
think it's
that
quite
people
reasonable
immediately
that you don't
want
believe
people
in
to
me.
believe what they say. But it's okay if we don't believe you. You
Right.
know, I'm
As long as
not.
you know, the biggest thing is when people get to add how many attacks and start attacking the person or just dismissing the person because of their experience. I think that demonstrates a lack of maturity, I think, and also it says a lot about the human condition and human nature, is that we cannot tolerate other people's experiences. You don't have to believe in it. You can believe that
No.
I believe that, or you can just say I'm full of crap. That's fine, but you don't have to like attack
Yeah.
and at the same token.
That is so unnecessary. But the problem is when you do stuff like what I do, or Steve Culls, or Brent, or there's other people coming out now. When we talk about things that we don't see right, we see red flags, and we demonstrate, we show those red flags. There are people think we are attacking. That is a direct attack on people.
Well, I think
So
it's as long as you're doing what you said, which is go after the message, not the messenger, then I think it's all quite
right.
reasonable. But I think
And
that, and we all cross this line at some time. We have to check ourselves and say, well, what am I doing? Why am I attacking the messenger instead of the message? And I think
right.
that when I see this constantly with guys who've been around for a while, and they're grown men and women for that matter, but women seem to be a little different. Not to sound sexist, but women seem to be a different. But men, for a lot of they've been around forever and a day. And I mean, why you waste your energy? Why are you so angry and so upset about attacking? If you don't like the message and what the guy has to say, then go after the message. Prove that that guy's message is flawed and wrong. Demonstrate it. Really do it. Not just appeal of authority. You know, I see this constantly in the Bigfoot community, just like I saw in the religious community. For instance, like when I was a diehard Christian and all that, it's like, I've been a Christian for 30 years, and yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, maybe the book says right there. It's the same thing when it comes to the Bigfoot community. I've been doing this for 40, 50 years, and like appeal of authority is not going to work. It's not the way you're supposed to do it. You just present the evidence. And why are we? And then the thing is, then it comes down, Nikki, is this personal. It's so much. It reminds me so much of religion. It's dogmatism. If you can't 100% prove, I mean, and we're going to talk more about, because the physical side of things is a very important thing, and I want to talk about this because this is where you focused on, right? But I mean, there's so many things that are wrong on both sides that it's
Probably.
you guys, you hear what I'm saying? I'm not saying you not to believe in what you want to believe or to just discount your encounters and all that. But I mean, it's just, we don't have a pot to piss in when it comes to this stuff. If we were trying to do, say peer-reviewed, scientists, ecologists, biologists, zoologists, anthropology, put it all together. There's a reason why the vast majority still don't take what we say seriously. It's not just because of our personalities or beliefs. It's because we don't have that much information yet. We, like myself, have had experiences. Many of us have had experiences. We know it's real, right? But if we were trying to present this in a court of law or in a peer review, or they would just like, well, this is great, we'll put this on the side, but there's a reason why there's not a department in every major university throughout the world that's dedicated to the research of Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And if I'm wrong, let me know. I mean, if you think I can take it the wrong way, let me know.
That's the thing, right? Is how the other person interprets how you see things going. And it's okay. I understand what you're trying to say. And but it just gets lost. And the most important thing is that we continue to have a conversation with
Yes.
the other side with you, like doing this kind of conversation with somebody who's maybe doesn't see things the same way, but we can have a conversation. There's nothing saying we can't have a conversation about Bigfoot, and we have different opinions about it and not get all huffy and mad about it. You know, there's nothing wrong with
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It really happens all the time. Which, by the way, for those who are interested in the future, I'm going to be interviewing someone who is peer reviewed and does have a PhD, and his name is what the hell is his name again? I just lost his name. George Hansen, and he wrote a book, and it's quite a famous book. It's called The Trickster and the Paranormal, and we're going to be having some discussions and comparing that and with Bigfoot, with ufology, and with paranormal, and this things that go hand in hand. And then also will be Stan Gordon will be interviewing him as well, so which is another guy who's on the other side. I wouldn't say he's on this side, but he's an investigator who's found that there are strong correlations between UFOs, Bigfoot, and orbs and everything else. That's what his research leads to. So, but I do want to also have to start interviewing a lot more the flesh and blood side camp, because especially people like you who are willing to have a conversation, not condemn me for my position. You know what I mean?
I don't do that. I've never done
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, it just gets lost sometimes, you know.
So let's talk about this flesh and blood side of things for a while. So there's a lot of different things. And so one of the lives that I watched, there was this last week, and once again, I hope your father's doing well or doing better, or just
we'll find out today if he's gonna have surgery. So that's kind of been on my mind. But
you brought up these folders and these notebooks of things like articles and the DNA testing, and then we got also like and then of course we got the footprints and all that kind of stuff. So I would like for you for the second half of this interview, if you got the time, is to go through that, and you can go through whatever points you want to that support what makes you believe that it is a physical being. And I'm going to shut up, and I'm just going to let you tell us. I'm not going to.
That.
If it's all right with you,
I said before, okay, is that for me, I like to see where you can link history. Okay, I'm real big on that. Having to look. Yeah, Uncle Bones, here's that Raptors in the chat, but Raptors in the chat on Lord of O.R.D stream. I'm sharing too, so I could bring more people in to listen. So there's 2 places you could be on right now.
Which, by the way, thank you for doing that. So, and once again, thank you all for joining us and having this conversation, listening. So
I like to see that, because there are things for me that need to be, for my mind to believe or to accept that Bigfoot is real. Number 1 is that I do not believe they're human beings. Okay. I believe they're Homo. They are in the genus Homo. Okay. But they have their own part in history. They went off the rung onto their own area 1 million years ago, and they developed that way because we know it's a human upright being with opposable thumb and that, okay, the way they walk, the strides and all of that, you can get totally into strides and feet and all of this stuff. So I do believe they're Homo. The ridge, above the eyes, things that can be traced back through our evolution. But for it to be sapien, you have to have that same bone structure. And I do not believe they have a same bone structure. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to hold up 600 pounds and run and jump and do all these things we say they do. Okay, we have 1,000-pound people, but their bones crack underneath the weight of their bodies. They're homebound. They can't even move. Okay, so that's my way of thinking.
Okay.
Also, heights. Okay, we do have 7-foot tall human beings, but they do not walk or run the way a Bigfoot does. Stealthy. Everybody says they glide, right? You have multiple people, thousands of people saying that their movement through the woods is quiet, is smooth, and that's not what a 7-foot tall Homo sapien does. The taller you get a human being, they're using canes, they walk very rigid, and they don't live very long past their 30s. Okay, Ludlow, all these really tall people, they can't support their weight, because as you get taller and your mass grows, okay, as your mass grows, can't support the density of our bones. So therefore, if it has different bones, then it's not human, something else. Because remember, when something grows big like that, the circulatory system has to be able to run that blood from the bottom to the top. And that means your circulatory system has to be better, because that's how many tall people who have disorders or whatever, they have complications with their circulatory system, and they often die from blood clots and other things that happen in their body. So that's where I take that. That's what makes me believe that if they're flesh and blood, they're not a human being. They're a homo something, but I don't know what that other something is, because we only have like 2% or 3% of the world's fossil record has been discovered. So we don't know, where that is. Somebody has to get lucky out there somewhere and run into a big old cave system that just happened to be the right temperature, the right pH balance, the right everything that preserved that lineage. And we just haven't found it yet. And that's understandable. We've only found so much right now. So it's still a possibility of us coming up with that definitive proof, type specimen, from history. It could still be out there buried somewhere. We don't know that part. As far as my books, I tend to, I'm old school. I like to have paper and pen and write and make notes. And I mean, even a research, right? It doesn't matter if it comes from the internet, Wikipedia, all these different sites. I pull them together, see what the differences are, but I tend to keep that information. And as I go through my own shows, I keep that information, and I have amassed a little bit of information. So I'm just gonna I didn't pull it out before because I thought we were coming on at noon.
That's my fault. Once again, I screwed that up somehow.
I'm all tangled up. Oh,
Thank
this
you
is just I call this book my Bigfoot book of shame.
Oh, that book of shame. It's got to be a massive book. It's got to be a
This
massive.
one, it has all my research for my shows in regards to hoaxes, just the hoaxes. Okay. And I keep it all in here. I type out a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about on the shows. I like to not be, I hate it when I don't know about something that's going to come up. So I tend to kind of overthink a lot, and I look it up. and I print it out and I keep it. And that's my reading material when I'm over there, going to bed or whatever. That's what I do, because that's what's fun, is the research part for me.
Sure.
Which has made me the evil armchair researcher. Okay, that's what they say. If you are an armchair researcher, you don't get to say anything about this stuff because you're not boots on the ground. That's one of the biggest things you always hear. And but
You're not one of us. You're not one of us.
Yeah.
You're a sinner. You're going out.
I will find that. But in my book, I have information about Bluff Creek Massacre, about the Ruby Creek incident in 1941. Now, these are in order kind of from when I had my shows. But there are stuff like the Creek Freak photos and the Hayden Todd Cook photos.
What's the you might be, I said I wasn't going to interrupt, but what's the Creek Freak photos? What's that?
The Creek Freak was this one right here. It happened to be, I'm going to show it like this because it'll take me too long to look it up on my let's see if I can do it like this.
Well, here, let me we can make this, I'll make this easier. What am I doing? Let's put you in solo. There you go. You're in solo, so now people will be able to see it.
Trying to look at the right one. But this one actually comes from Squatchopedia.org. It's a great site for you to go to look up hoaxes. And this is the Creek Freak photo where
that one.
in 2007 there was supposedly a Bigfoot standing right here. Okay. And the original is oops, it's over here. Shows the Bigfoot right there, but it's too small for you guys to see that. But the original, that's the original there. And it's not there.
Is that the one that's like dropping? He picks up his leg and drops down like into a hole type of thing and comes up? Or is that the one?
No.
Okay.
Not that. This was just a photo taken of a helicopter, but somebody darkened in a spot in the corner.
Oh, I don't know that one. Oh, okay.
To make it look like it was a Bigfoot there. But people found the originals. They gave it to Darren Lee, and he put it in his thing. Every time he finds something that constitutes a hoax, he will put it up on his website. So I research that. I look it up, and then I look further, and I go into other people's stuff. I'm not out there. I may have debunked a couple of things, but for the most part, I'm pulling information from all kinds of different places on the internet and putting it into one nice little package on my show. So it's archived and it's there, and we can talk about it because remember, I have a panel to talk about this stuff. You've got a lot of channels that'll put out, this happened and that, but I like to bring in other people to chat about it and what their feelings are about it, and have they run into anything else like that. So
you can you mind me asking a question about that?
Go ahead.
What qualifies a person to be a member of the panel to talk about? Why do you choose these people?
I'm pretty open. I've had all kinds of people on my panel to discuss all kinds. You just have to ask. If there is something you're passionate about, then you can come onto my show. I used to put out, sometimes I'll put out the link out there, but I kind of trying to get away from just putting the link out there for anybody to jump on. There's been a huge increase on people coming on naked and crazy stuff like that onto podcasts.
That's what happened to me. That's why I had to stop. And literally about a month ago, was it? A month and a half ago, yeah. I was doing an interview with a guy about shamanism, and we opened it up, and sure enough, some dude showed up, and he was butt naked in his bed and playing with his male thing. And I'm like,
So it's hard to do that when you're doing live shows. You can get yourself into some trouble when you do that. Well, so as long as I've talked to you before and I know who you are, then I don't have an issue with throwing out links for people to come and give their side of the story. We may not all agree, but it's not like we're not going to let you come and do that. I've had people bring photos that they have taken and come onto my show to talk about it. Unfortunately, I can't control all the guests I have. They can do, they have their own mind. So, of course, they have to have a disclaimer. Whatever they say is not necessarily what I say, but they're a guest, and we work it like that. So sometimes some people get laughed at.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, and I hope also those who maybe go on the attack a little too far too, right?
There are people definitely that can go overboard on that type of stuff. And you can say, be respectful. They're coming on with good intentions, but that'll happen. That happens, and it's unfortunate. But not everybody thinks like me or acts like me, and
that's why I like you. Well, you're here. Thank you.
And these, matter of fact, there was one case where a guy came on, and a couple of my people on the panel laughed at him and were laughing off his stuff. But I had been seeing his stuff for a long time because he sends me stuff all the time. So I never really believe in a lot of his photos. I just didn't see anything in his photos. So when he agreed to allow me to show them, it kind of got a lot of people pissed off because the guests were laughing at his photos. And I'm like, he knew what he was doing, folks. We didn't talk about it, and he knew that the possibility of somebody laughing or not agreeing with what he was taking was a possibility. So I tend to not. Now I kind of take people's photos and stuff, and I do not say who they come from anymore. I'm kind of keeping things a little more anonymous so that I don't hurt people's feelings out there. And that's because that's not my intention. It never has been. So I don't even tell, people may submit photos to me, but I tell them I'm not going to release your name. If you come into the chat and you say that's my photo, then that's, their responsibility.
Right. It's understandable.
Yeah.
It's very understandable.
That's it. I just like to have the information from different places, and I want to share it. If you don't want to believe what I found, that is absolutely, that's on you. But later down the road, if something comes up and it turns out things are fake and you're heartbroken, that's, well, maybe you should have listened to me.
Right.
All I have to say. I don't just do the hoaxing stuff. My channel's a little bit versatile. I can't even lift this thing. It hurts my arm. Let me pull these two. These two here is just research on indigenous.
I'm gonna address this one right here because this is what Danny says. If your feelings are easily hurt, they are for sure in the wrong community. Well, there's two sides to that, Danny. There's your own responsible behavior too. You don't have to attack the guy, and you don't have to laugh at them and all that. If they're gonna, sure, they brought themselves into the lion's den, but you don't have to act like a lion. You don't have to act like a jerk. I'm not saying you, Danny, or Donnie or Danny are one of those jerks because I don't know you. But I'm just saying you don't have to be the jerk. That's a choice that you make. So once again, when you're pointing the finger, right, there's three being pointed back at you. And a lot of times when we are attacking the messenger, disrespecting the messenger, it says a lot more about ourselves. We don't have to do that. That's a choice that you make. So remember that there's two sides to all this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's always going to be opposing sides. That's natural, right?
Yeah.
It's natural. It's just how you deal with it and how you talk things out and realize that truly, you know, nobody's right or wrong in this subject because we don't know. We don't know.
At the end of the day, we all act like we do, but
Mm-hmm.
even like I said, like, I mean, I've had my own encounters and I'm like, do I really know what I even experienced it? I don't even, I mean, the truth is I didn't, although I got 15 feet in front of me, I didn't have courage to go a little further and hold its hand and find out if it was flesh and blood and if it would do the, you know what I mean? When you're in that encounter, that experience, the last thing you're thinking about is go hogging Bigfoot. At least, well, at least a guy like me. There's other people out there say that they would, but I all right. I mean, each person's different, but I mean, when I had my encounters, the last thing I was thinking, man, I can't wait to get some physical evidence to show the whole world. I was thinking, maybe it's time to go. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, for sure. But we like to have different conversations, right? It can be about DNA, eDNA. What does that encompass? Who can afford to do that stuff?
That's a good question.
Many people say, I've collected evidence. I have Bigfoot hair. I have Bigfoot poop. And then they put it in their freezer for 5 years and think that there's going to be DNA on there. Excuse me? No, that is not the way DNA works. It has half-lives. It degrades very fast. So it's important that if you're going to do that type of research, okay, and collect evidence, then you need to have all your ducks in a row before you do that. You need to know who you're going to be sending hair samples to, who you're going to be sending poop to, because don't be sending it to Dr. Meldrum because he's going to throw that shit literally in the trash. He doesn't do that anymore. So, you know, have people make contacts and say, hey, if I come across something, would you be willing to take my evidence and analyze it? And they're going to say, sure, for $5,000, I'll give you I'll do it for you. Or $250, I'll let you know if it's a deer hair or a bear hair. Everything costs money. There's very few. There's a couple of things going on right now. I think Darby Orcutt is accepting hair samples or something right now, but I don't even know if that's still going. I haven't heard nothing about it in the last couple of months. So it's important that you have those ready and that you know you don't just take evidence out of the woods and think you can just pop it into that envelope and it's going to be fine. If you really want, if you're serious, you will learn how to properly prepare samples from the woods to a lab.
What do you think about that strategy that, like, may rest in peace, what's his name? Gosh, memory. My short-term memory is just really Scott Carpenter. He talks about the strategy he is about reverse tape and put it wrapped around a tree. I mean, did anybody ever talk about how that might affect the results of the test?
Yeah, the sticky glue. The glue has compounds in it that can break down, and it changes the makeup of stuff.
I know that when it comes to datings, for instance, carbon dating and all that, say a lot of that's the only thing. Like, say there would be pottery and stuff like that, or say if it was a rock, and it will have something that's like a glue or sap substance or wood. That's the only way you can even date anything, right? So I'm just, the rock itself you can't really date. You can only make it to guess on. It's the organic material that you can date, possibly date, and even there's a margin of error. So So what have you guys talked about that strategy, and has anybody mentioned what the actual consequences were for that? Not speculated, but actually asked what were the consequences of using tape? Have you got a chance to talk to anybody?
Oh, no, I don't know. I haven't followed that.
If not, okay.
And I know about it. You know, Scott Carpenter was, how do I put, in the beginning, I found him really interesting because he brought new equipment to his investigations, and he kind of founded the whole watch stuff behind me as I'm looking for stuff in the front of me.
Yeah, he got credit for it, at least, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that was amazing. But I never found any of his photos intriguing, not even a little bit. And there was not one that I didn't find that was altered, that he hadn't zoomed in and pulled up images. But that's okay. I just stopped following him, especially since, you know, I'm not real big on Bigfoot visiting me at my home and stuff like that.
You know,
So I didn't follow him. I stopped following him. I didn't make a big deal about it. I hardly tell anybody that. I move on. I don't.
Yeah, well, the issue of the man is not important. The thing is the strategy that he, as far as that,
of using to collect.
Yeah,
the hair.
Yeah. Is anybody else doing that? Do you know anybody else is doing that?
Well, the North American wood ape took it a little step further, and they ended up getting those burrs, the big burrs, and they put tracking units inside the burrs, and then they hung them out, and they were able to track something for a long time until it finally got dead. That's innovative. That's different. Of course, you don't know.
Said tracking. So, do you have any idea what it might have been? Oh, you don't know what it was. Okay.
Yeah, you would never know that unless you actually found the burr again and you know, were able to get hair samples or whatever.
I think this is a very important topic, this whole thing about the DNA thing, because I hear everybody on all sides talking about it, but I'm like, you got a whole file for all that of that. I mean, what's your take on it? What's your take on the DNA testing process, and what do we actually have at this point? Do we have anything? Do we really have anything?
Had a lot of good attempts, but other things have muddied the waters. Okay. So, well, the number one thing was Ketchum's report, study and all of that. But of course, she got lined up with a picture of a Wookiee and a press conference and stuff that muddied the waters. She may have had great intentions of pulling off DNA. And to me, after, I'm horrible at DNA names and stuff like that, but I've read Dr. Haskell Hart's book in regards to her study, and I fall into that camp that things were missing. Things didn't get done properly. Things like buying your own paper so you could peer review yourself. That's not right. That's not appropriate. So red flags, right? I'm all about the red flags. Little things make me not want to follow that. She may have done some really great work, okay? But unfortunately, it dampens my belief that her work has gone any further. And there's other things that she got involved with that, you know, were not appropriate as well in the court system. And those things were solved, and she's gone on. And right now she's made a ton of money to help her with her next group of DNA studies. But of course, she linked in mermaids, Dogman, Mothman, all these other things that she already claims to have samples of, and has immediately again knocked me out of the water for credibility.
So I've heard that before, but where did you hear about this? Did you actually hear her say that, or did you?
What?
Not to say that she's not a little. She's far left of me. Let's put it that way, and her her thinking. But that.
Yeah.
But did you hear her say that, or did you read it?
Oh yeah, she was on podcasts. She's always on with Duke and all these other podcasts saying how she's got samples of these mermaids and stuff like that. So yeah, that's known. That's out there. You can go look that up.
Good old Duke. I interviewed Duke back in 2017.
Yeah, I know
when he was barely known.
So they're a different camp. Okay, they're a completely different camp, and that's fine. I just am not going to. I won't support that. We'll just put it that way. I won't support it, and I'll move on. And maybe somebody else will come along and try to do that as well. I think we need more than one, but it's just hard to get any true scientists on board because of the money and credibility and reputation. Okay, most of these people are doctors or doctorates, and they're in universities, and that will damage their standings in their jobs where they make their money to support themselves. So we're always going to run into these type of things.
Plus, the vast majority, the mainstream does not. How do I say this? There are a lot of people out that say that, in personal conversation, they believe in it, but in public, they're not going to say anything close to that. Mm-hmm. They're going to make fun of it and mock it, just as I did before I had my encounters, right? I mean, I understand where they come from, but I understand why they would not be interested. But this whole thing about this DNA test, because people keep throwing that out, and I think it's an important thing to bring up, because if it's really nothing there, if there's nothing to substantiate besides somebody's claim that there's something, and I know there's reports out there, and I know like Scott Carpenter, he had his stuff, you can look up the reports and all that. How do we know that? I mean, because in the end of the day, if the only thing that comes back that it was half supposed female Homo sapien and another half unknown, we have basically nothing.
Yeah, we still don't know the lineage or what's happened. The important part of that,
that other half negates it. The other half negates it, because if you don't know
that
the other half,
primate part, we don't know what that is. So it doesn't matter. We already, if you want to speculate, we know that this is somewhere in that Homo range. So we know that's going to come up it's going to come up to be that. It's going to be a primate. It walks upright. It has opposable thumbs. It's already a Homo. That we know that, right?
Do we? I'm going to bring up something about that. So
if we're believing, with the speculation, is that if it's a flesh and blood creature, then it has to fall in the Homo end of things.
So here's the question I'm going to ask you, and it's just speculation. It's a question that probably you can't answer, that no one can answer, but to think about. Okay, if it's half female, who was the person that gathered the samples and did the test? How do we know it's not the female's own DNA? I mean, how do we know? My point being is to say that it's this. I'm not trying to discourage people. I'm trying to just think a little bit about what's being said here. And you choose what you want to believe in, but half female Homo sapien is another half of undetermined origin, and is a whole lot of nothing is what it is. That's the honest truth. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but in the end of the day, it's a whole lot of nothing.
We won't know that, and people can. The scientists are going to know, right? But all you can do,
they might, but we can't just blindly have faith in a person just because they take on the label of a scientist, because we know there's just as much corruption in the scientific community as any other community. So we have to we also have to have checks and balances when it comes to even that statement, the scientists, because there's plenty of examples of scientists who, through greed, corruption, for whatever motives, gave us bogus information about something that they claim to be a scientific
Listen,
evidence.
we've got stuff that's being said out there, and you have to follow everything that's being said, right? Not only, okay, I'm going to use her as an example because she's the forefront of what the Bigfoot community uses, and that's Dr. Ketchum, okay?
Right.
She has stated in videos that, oh my gosh, what was the exact, no, give me just a second. She rejected the tree of life, and in fact, she tried to reject all of the evolutionary theory, yet she's looking for the DNA, which is opposite. Okay.
She's contradicting herself, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's contradictory. And she claims that the supernatural merely means natural ones or nature ones or something like that. So she's contradicting the science, but yet she wants to prove it through science. And that doesn't make sense. She also stated that it was scientifically engineered, that Bigfoot is engineered, meaning somewhere along the line we introduced that, or that the engineering came from a higher source, like maybe aliens.
Right.
So that to me is not science. Okay, she's injecting her own opinion about where Bigfoot came from. So you have to look at it all, and you have to piece it together. And every time somebody that's important, a scientific background says something, and you're like, whoa, that's weird. You take that information and you have to keep it, because that comes into play a little bit later down the road. And I have that. I've kept that. I have so much useless information, but something will come up and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. She said this. She said that about primates. She's confused about hybridizing and hybridization and hybridity. They're all different things. She's confused. Descent versus separation, or creationists, and all this stuff, it all is different. And you just have to, some people don't care. Okay, they don't to know all that mumbo jumbo lingo stuff.
Right.
And it's hard to explain. I just done a lot of reading, and I can't look at this. I'm going to show you something.
I don't blame you. I can't look at this. I don't blame you.
There is DNA reports about shit like this that I've tried to read through several times.
Technical specs are pretty tedious.
Just to understand it. But I can't explain it because I don't have a doctorate.
Well, and then the language it's one of the things.
Yeah,
but
the language is hard.
Language. Right.
I read something and then I have to go research what that means to put it into, these essays and abstracts and stuff that you're finding. So, but there's a lot of good resources out there for people to find the answers. One of the best is the relic hominoid inquiry. If you look that up, there are so many articles and essays on there that you can pull information from, and then try to make more logical explanations and come up with your own ideas about what this stuff is. I'm not saying that you can read this stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. Sasquatch, not as a human man hybrid or a hybrid species or the human subspecies, but as an unrecognized extant hominin. Do you know what all that means? You have to break it down, you know?
I think there's a lot of us who will pretend that we know what that means, but in the end of the day, do we really know
Right.
what that means?
Some don't, and some don't even care. They saw Bigfoot and that's all they know, and that's all they care about, and that's fine. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, those of us who've had sightings or encounters, we know there's something out there that equates to what we call a Bigfoot. But then, of course, then my question is, and this is the, I guess it's just the unforgivable, the one that you can't talk about in the community is this tying us all into the quote unquote supernatural or the paranormal, and these are all placeholders because these are words that we just throw out until we get honest and say we don't even know what those words really mean, as much as we like to think that we do. But when you see a big shadowy figure that looks just like Bigfoot and it's in the woods, the next thing it disappears before your eyes, and you can rationalize and say, well, it's because of this, that, or the other. But there is that possibility that we're dealing with something that's maybe pretending to be a Bigfoot, or at least it looks like what we consider to be a Bigfoot, and that it's not actually.
Talk about that, then it's an endless limit. You can say anything.
That's the problem. That's where we're at. It's an endless limit. That's the
if you believe in that side, you can say it comes from a rainbow unicorn in this atmosphere. I don't know,
That's the problem, isn't it? The problem is we don't have enough information, so we're all still operating in belief instead of actually
right.
And
you're operating with not belief, but it's the idea that anything goes, anything.
But if the premise that you're in and the bias that you're operating doesn't work, and then we also, it's up to you how you want to stay in there and enforce that until it fits. And maybe someday it will work, but there's a good chance that it's never going to work. And so if you don't willing to look outside the box that you put yourself in, you might be limiting your chance to actually get to knowing what the actual thing that we're actually dealing with. Does that make sense? So
it does, because now if somebody's out there saying, well, I'm an alien, I came from another universe, then that is totally possible, right? If you think that way, if you think you're from higher beings, then it's an endless source of information to pull from. So you need to know where you start from and what your main beliefs are,
but
to argue that point.
Right, but the problem is beliefs. And if we keep, what I mean? I know we all have them, but our beliefs, I've been around. I don't think, in fact, from my observation, I'm not alone in this. 95 or more percent of everything I believed in was wrong, one way or another, right? And from my observation of other people around me and other people I met, and people that have, the papers and the letters before their names themselves have been wrong. You know what I mean? It's one thing about scientific method and scientific community should be that it's never about, an end day of absolute proof or having absolute proof, but always pursuing something closer and closer to something that's more in line with our reality, right? And if what our journey is leading something completely opposite of what we want it to be, then it gets up to each individual to make the decision. But if this is why I say we start to turn this into a cult. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
I'm not saying that the flesh and blood camp is wrong. I'm not saying anyone. I'm just saying, listen.
Everybody's going to come up with their own thing, and it's okay. I don't really care. But this is what I believe, and I've based my following from that. People want to hear what I say, and that's why I have a channel, and that's why I do this, is because I found out that there were more people who thought like me, but there's probably way more that think your way, that are kind of back and forth, that they had this experience and now they're trying to figure out where it all fits in.
All right.
I think there's probably way more of you. And then you have the extreme. And we have this in life. That's life, okay? Right and left, conservative or whatever, okay? We have that in life. That's the way our whole social society is structured. So I think that
For
being
better or worse, but I think it's actually for
better or
worse.
worse, but being in that middle isn't a bad thing. It makes you able to have discussions like this.
Right.
You
And
know?
people accuse me, or people like me say, you're just taking the safe route. No, I'm not. I'm not taking the safe route. It's about being as honest as I possibly can, at least with myself, if no one else, and say, you know what? I do not have all the answers. I do not know 100% what this thing is that we call Bigfoot Sasquatch is. It doesn't fit in any of the parameters or the things that I've been taught in my life. It doesn't fit nicely anywhere. And that's my experience. And then when I watch other people and what they say and their experiences, it does seem to fall in line more for what I'm suggesting than on either side of it, or whatever camp you want to belong in. But I guess it's why I want to have the discussions, because maybe, well, ultimately, in the day, the reason I want to have discussions is I want to know what the hell I experienced. What the hell happened? What the hell?
And explain it to me. I think you're a little more scientific than you think, because you want answers, right? And you want them to be tangible. And science does that. Science gives you the facts, okay? They don't create stuff. It's facts when you go that direction.
But science always is subject to change and flux, and the things that we believed in even 20 years ago have changed in many areas of fields of investigation and inquiry, and when it comes to the scientific community. So, and definitely when it comes to Bigfoot, it would feel absolutely damn good if we just had an absolute answer what the heck we're dealing with. You know what I mean? That's right. It would. It means like I can say, yeah, I really had this experience, and this is what happened, and this is what I can to support what I experienced and what I encountered, and this you know about Charles Fort.
Why does that sound familiar?
In the Forteans, this experience that we've lived with. He wrote a book called The Book of the Damned, which I think is a book that's not a religious book. Just don't get us. He was a researcher who researched all sorts of anomalous events that happened in history 100 years ago. He made this fantastic book and if you read his book, just if you ever get a chance, it's a fun and make you think about stuff. And I think that's what we're dealing with. And a lot of us, I see us that we're in that camp of the Book of the Damned. What does that mean? It's not that we're going to hell or anything, or we have our own living hell now because we have these experiences, encounters, or you, Nikki, with all this knowledge that you have and your own experiences. You're like, what the heck? It's just like this never-ending rabbit hole, this endless. What's the word? It's just never. Where's the answer to this thing? You know what I mean? And it's maddening, and it will just like that movie, that video that you brought up. And you used the Eminem theme song, and it's like it literally is. It's like, what the hell's going on with us? You know what? Why can't we get it?
Song. It's a faker. It's the YouTube. It's a YouTube version. So I wouldn't get a community strike. But yeah, it's, there's hoaxes out there and people need to know about it. And that's, where I do that stuff. But I don't know. It's an unending discussion. Seriously.
It is. It's true. It is, if we're honest about it, right? I mean, if we're really honest about it. And I think I really enjoyed that you were willing to spend a couple hours of your life with me. Thank you for being patient with me. And actually, I screwed up the time, folks. It's supposed to be 2 hours later, not earlier. You think I've done this enough times?
Look, we had a good turnout. Everybody showed up. There was one question from Lambot, I think. What I thought about structures, and that's another whole thing, right? Well, I don't.
No.
I don't.
Over here. I said, listen, because there's a thing, right? You have all these structures. No, shut up. I'll let you talk. You're going to say the same thing I'm going to say anyway. So go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Listen, unless you saw Bigfoot make that structure, then how do you know a Bigfoot made that structure? Okay. Now, yes, there are some really big shit out there, okay, that is you can't explain how it happened. Stuff out in Nordegg, stuff in the real big timbers that is confusing, okay? But if you stumble upon a structure in the woods and it's a little smaller than you, then I think you need to throw that shit out. Okay, don't even think of it as anything. I especially don't believe in glyphs or whatever you have that Bigfoot's talking to you and leaving you these little structures and little things with meaning. Okay, you can't say it has meaning because we don't know that. We don't have that information that they know how to have a written language. So we're barely talking about people having mind, what do you call it? Mind speak, okay? And that's even hard to take, but we do have some scientific background on that type of psychic ability stuff, okay? So it's not out of the realm of believing that. So it's going to be on an individual basis what you believe and what you don't. It's what it comes down to. Is if you've had these experiences, if you communicate with things, then that's your journey, right? That's where you are going to gravitate towards. So who knows? But I don't believe in the stick pictures are holding that as evidence. I'm even pretty critical on footprints, and I've seen some out there. So it's, if you don't see it and have the videos to prove any of that, it's just what it is. It's just take it as that. And
well, it's always like, for me, it's like, okay, so there's the tree structures, but until we see a Bigfoot or anything else that's built that thing, what's amazing is we don't even have images of human beings building those things.
Right? Okay, yeah. You might have a few Girl Scout troops or Boy Scouts troops doing that.
Right. We don't even have that to have say, well, definitely it's a human being doing it. So what is doing it?
Right.
You know what I mean? That's a good question to put in the back of
Well, we know that loggers will take trees and flip them upside down as markers, okay, with the roots up. We know that because they've confirmed that. But people want to say Bigfoot are doing that. Maybe a Bigfoot has done one, a big, strong ass one, like really, really big one. But people will take trips to that place up in Alaska just to go look at that. Is it Alaska or is it somewhere else? Where is it?
Yeah, it's Alaska that happens there. Yeah, sure. So the thing is, in the day, and I know it's going to upset a lot of people, and every time I talk this way, people just drop off my channel because they don't want to hear the honest discussion. And that is, listen, maybe that's why we do need a little more people out in the boots on the ground and actually doing, until we actually can film a Bigfoot building a tree structure, you cannot definitively say a Bigfoot's doing it. Now, here's the other problem: is the pill of authority again, where you have all these people are playing the guru or the wise person or whatever it may be. You call it medicine woman, medicine man, whatever, the elder, whatever. They'll say that that's so, but we're still in the situation where it's somebody claiming it's so, but there's no evidence that it's so. And that's just me. I'm trying to be as honest as I can about the situation. There seems to be a correlation with Bigfoot and tree structures, but no one's seen, and to this day, no one's ever demonstrated. We got one video from Thinker Thunker that looks like it was a very shadowy figure that potentially could be a Bigfoot that's pole vaulting a tree. But that's about as close as we got to anything that's of evidence that a Bigfoot is building any kind of structure, which is not any evidence of Bigfoot building structure. It's a large shadowy being that we're thinking is a Bigfoot that's throwing a big long tree trunk, pole vaulting. At least that's what it looks like.
Right.
Possibly.
Yeah. I know which one you're talking about. We've got a couple of videos that have been disputed as hoaxes, where they went out and they shook the tree and all you see is a black figure shaking a tree and stuff like that. But it's hard, right? It's going to be hard. And in 50 years, over 50 years, people are going back to the P&G film. We should already, with our equipment today, we should have another one of those. And Freeman footage is probably the closest, and people are, again, for and against on that. So where are all those videos? Where are they? That we can't explain, because we can explain the Sonny Vaders, okay, which he in his stuff. We can explain the Mark Anders photos. We can explain the Sean Bannon photos. We can explain all these different things out there that are coming up. And
so here's the example. So we'll just listen. So, and I'm not trying to knock you person, but I'm going to think about something. I don't think I know I'm not keeping a close mind. You say, keep your mind close, folks. Humans don't make complex tree structures in the middle of the woods, and they are psychic. Listen, this is a claim that you're making, right? Now, you bring up later, he says, to keep your head in the sand, and then you say this, I'm not attacking you, because it wouldn't matter if you were not, but I appreciate you bringing this up, because it's a perfect example. Where's the evidence for Jesus? Well, there's actually no evidence outside of the Bible. And there's no evidence, that's just the truth, the absolute 100% truth, and I spent a decade of my life researching this. So, and if you want to have a debate or discussion about that, I'm more than happy to talk about that. But the same token, we could say the same thing when it comes to tree structures. We do not know what's making those tree structures. That's the point. And just because you claim that, then it's one thing to say, I believe in Jesus, or you believe that Jesus is real. It's another thing to prove that Jesus existed. And it's the same situation going on when it comes to tree structures. We don't know what's making those, and we are making the assumption that it's solely this Sasquatch doing it. At the end of the day, you guys all might be right. All right, absolutely.
They say people who have that belief will be strong on that point, but of course, there's not the evidence to prove it, and he's claiming that there will not be any evidence, but you have to think of the other possibilities about that.
Right. You can't just say.
My kids and I go out and we make stone stacks. Okay. We stack stones, and you're not really supposed to be doing that. I have them destroy them before we leave. But in the past, I hadn't. We would make these intricate, fun things next to the stream, and see how high we could stack rocks and make them balance. And sometimes we would leave. And people claim Bigfoot makes that. Well, how can you claim Bigfoot makes that when humans can make that? And half of the structures I see in social media can be made by a person. Okay. And you're saying complex. Yeah, because a human being made it. Fight me on that. That's just my opinion, right?
It's just and here and Ninja here, 1985, and I was I can't read the other part. Called you, is that what it is? Is that one of your people?
Kaiju Ninja, that is Tristan. Tristan is in the Pacific
Tristan. Hi,
Northwest.
Tristan. But this is a true statement with this, what they said here. There's no evidence of Bigfoot doing anything. And that's, by the way, but you're talking to a person who, solely, I truly believe I saw Bigfoot and had beautiful encounters, right? So I'm not saying that Bigfoot doesn't exist, but that statement is true. None of us have actually seen a Bigfoot vocalize. None of us have seen Bigfoot build a tree structure. No one's ever seen us Bigfoot do a tree knock, and etc. So these are honest statements that we still are dealing with, especially if you're going to try to be honest about the subject, that we have to say until there's some evidence, or at least some. I don't even know anybody's even claimed either one of those things. I've actually seen a Bigfoot vocalize. I think they've heard Bigfoot actually vocalize.
And Tristan has some amazing audio. I will tell you, he's got some really crazy audio that he has taken, I think, mostly up at Bumping Lake. I'm not sure, but amazing that you're like, huh?
I love to hear that. I love to hear, so the thing is, I'm not trying to discourage anyone. I'm trying to remind you that we have a long ways to go in this journey. And if we just stay very narrow-minded and dogmatic about things, we're going to turn this into a cult of Bigfoot instead of us coming to some definitive conclusions about what we are dealing with. And I think to me, it's important. Maybe it's not to you, that's fine. But to me, it's like, there's no point in me making up stuff, lying about it, doesn't in any way support my position in any way. It damages it. It damages and the same thing's for all the rest of us. If you're just saying stuff, it's one thing to say, I believe that this is what they're doing, and that's fair enough. And then you can't get upset with somebody like me or Nikki or someone else and say, well, where's the evidence for you? Why do you believe that? What's the evidence? And if you can't supply the evidence, then the thing is, we need to be mature enough and say, and I like Mark. Mark's channel, if it wasn't Mark, most of us wouldn't even know about what tree structures are, right? And, the idea of it. But he's still in the same position as the rest of us. And he has not proved all these years, this past 7 or 8 years, that Bigfoot made the tree structure. Yeah, I'm not knocking the man. I like Mark. I really do like him as a person, and I love to even have him on the show and talk about it. But
I kind of lost it with him when he starts, the portal pictures and a lot of stuff. But I've been to that area. I lived in Colorado Springs, and I've been up and down that area right there, and I didn't see what he sees. I just don't. Yeah,
I mean, the problem comes down to is all we have is anecdotal evidence, personal evidence, personal stories, my story. That's why I keep telling you, I'm going to share my story, but I don't expect you to believe my story. In fact, I would question your sanity a bit if you just blatantly believe my story, especially how bizarre my story is. I'd be like, you sure you're just going to believe that without even having your own experience, at least to kind of corroborate with it or anything? I mean, I don't think it's a wise thing to do in any aspect of life. And that's part of this tale, and what's so wrong about this tale, and how there could be, like Native Americans talk about, or indigenous First Nation people and other people talk about trickster spirits or tricksters or whatever you want to call it. Are we being hoodwinked by something else behind the scenes? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying it's so, but it sure seems that way. Because after 100 years of very confident men and women who've gone out in the field, have done their research, and we will do ours as well, and the generation after that, and if we don't have any more than what we have right now, we're in a serious dilemma. And
Yeah.
that's what I want people to think about. So as you start thinking outside the box and take it to the next level. And so, what if it turns out that there's something completely different that's not human or Bigfoot? And I'm just bringing it out there, and I'm not saying it's so, that's making these tree structures. That's making
Yeah,
it.
if it was something else, then I don't think I would be interested.
But what if there's
If I
evidence?
was interested in that, then I would be doing the paranormal field. I would be doing.
No. What if it turns out it's not anything like that? That right now it's just a placeholder. So you can't just assume.
Yeah,
that
but
this.
I'm saying for me, I would lose interest if it's not flesh and blood. Then I'm not interested, because if I was,
Well, what if it
I
is flesh and blood, but only
paranormal
shows up?
experiences. So I know that plane exists. I just don't put it with this right now. So that would make me lose my interest if it was that realm.
Or
Because
what if it's something that just shows up periodically from it somewhere else? And then it doesn't even have to be interdimensional. It could be something that actually is flesh and blood. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying it's so, but that's where we're at. So, I mean, wouldn't that be an amazing discovery if it turns out to be there's a new entity, a new being altogether that's part of our reality? Wouldn't that make the world a little more interesting if it turns out to be the case? I mean, I think it would be. I mean, I don't think that takes away anything from quote unquote Sasquatch. I'm just thinking that I'm just saying that if we get dogmatic about this, we're not much different than a religious person.
Sorry, I got distracted by the chat.
Which I missed.
Is it Lamabot? Is that what your thing is? I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, he's on that different end. Remember, we were talking about how everybody you're either on this side, or you can be in the middle. Well, he's on that other far end of the beliefs he has.
Right. We're not disrespecting you, bro.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
fine.
I
don't, bro or gal, whatever. We're not disrespecting you. Sorry. We're just saying, we're just pointing out the obvious. That's all. We're not challenge you, the person.
There's no proof for that side of things. It's just what you say you've experienced, that's okay. Because I can't refute your encounter. I cannot refute what you feel is happening to you. That's not something I can ever do. I can't tell you how you feel or what you experienced or any of that. That's you. You experienced, portals and all that's your experience. From the other side, say I don't see proof of that happening. And there's because there's no proof.
Right. And I knew Scott personally, and I don't think that he would ever be this dogmatic as you think he is. Although he wrote a book and said that Bigfoot was the Nephilim, that was his approach, his conjecture, his opinion. And if you take that as gospel, then all I can say is you use a little more of your own critical thinking. It's not a knock on him. It's just his take on things. In the end of the day, if the only thing he has is a verse in the Bible to justify his whole position of what Bigfoot is, it's not very rational, not very logical, and it's not very responsible, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I like Scott. I have nothing against Scott, but that's his position. So there's a lot of people that believe a lot of things, and I'm just like, well, they're just beliefs.
He was a really nice guy. Scott was great man. But it's okay if I don't believe any of the evidence he's putting out. And that's all I'm saying is that it's evidence. It's what you put out into social media that you get criticized on, which is fine. That is totally fair game to have criticisms, comments, and anything regarding what you publicly put out into social media. And if you don't like what people say about your stuff, then don't put it out there. Keep it. I think you should keep, everything there. I have hours of footage that I don't put out because it's boring and there's nothing on it.
That's most of Bigfootery, right?
That's it, you know. So
could you hold the fort for just a second for me? Because I have to use the restroom.
No, I kept you on over 2 hours. See, you were worried we wouldn't get over 2 hours.
I'm gonna put you on solo, and you answer the questions for me, okay?
Okay, I'm just gonna go through questions because I'm actually looking at two different. I got both chats over here going though. You just criticized every actual researcher. This is insane. I did, but why? What did I say? Yeah, I do criticize, actually. That's my whole thing, is that I speak my opinion, and my opinion is nobody has any refutable evidence. And I believe in Bigfoot. I do. And I have had an experience I can't explain. And I've had experiences on the paranormal side as well. So I know shit can happen. Okay, whoa, it's going fast, both of them. Let me try to focus on one. You are claiming videos are evidence, but then you turn the video on and there's nothing there. There's nothing there. If you have to alter a video in any way, lighten it, zoom in, circle it with their little red circles, it's not any good because you've altered the narrative. Oh, my hair's going crazy right now. Okay, you've altered it. Can't do that. If you want everybody to see what you see, okay? If you want us to believe you, don't change the videos. Don't change the photos. Don't zoom in or highlight or contrast or add color. That's altering your evidence. And people won't believe that. Oh my God. Ed, he just mentioned Ed Waterman. Man, that, whew. Yeah, we had words, me and Ed Waterman, before. He was not a nice man.
Who is this Ed Waterman?
He's passed already. Rest his soul.
Thank you for
but he definitely had some alternative ideas of Bigfoot. And those were back, oh my God, those were back in the days where I was not nice. I will admit, I let it fly on my feelings.
So, I want to bring it up again because I know this is very upsetting how we are talking.
Not seeing your videos. Sorry.
What's
I'll
that?
have to check. No, Diesel was just saying that his videos are raw and he doesn't edit. So, but I've not checked out his channel, so I'll have to write that down and go check it out.
And I have a lot of respect for Diesel, and he goes out in the field and he films a lot of stuff, tree structures and all sorts of things. But all I'm saying, I'm just asking the honest question. That's all. I'm just bringing up the truth. I mean, it's not that I challenge any of my friends and acquaintances in the Bigfoot community because I have respect for it. I'm just, by the same token, I mean, we're just bringing up what is self-evident. That's the thing. What I noticed that people don't like this type of. There's a different group. There's a certain group of people that like the raw honesty, Nikki, and a lot of people don't because they feel like they're being attacked when we're not attacking you, the person. And
just having a conversation. It's not that serious. Really.
It might challenge your belief system, but it's okay. I mean, it just you are more than your belief. If you don't realize that, you do some soul searching and realize who you are. You're more than your belief system. The belief system, and if you don't allow it to, if you either rule your life, your belief, or you can allow it to adapt and change and become closer to a reality. And if we all talk about this, we want the truth, right? Well, the truth is not going to be anchored in lies or assumptions. It's either going to be anchored on evidence or it's not.
Lambot, how did I attack Ed and Scott? I did not attack. They were great. I'm sure. I know Scott was a good person, but because I don't believe in any of the photos he put out, that's an attack. That's not an attack. I could do an attack if you would like me to.
No,
but that's not what I do.
No personal attacks. You know what? Because Scott was a good person. Scott was.
He was a good person. He was real sweet when he talked and stuff. Me not believing in what he produces has nothing to do with the man. It has to do with the production of his put out. What
you just don't agree. You don't agree in his evidence that he presents. You don't think his evidence will prove. Now, if you are, and there's plenty of people in academia who are friends or ardent disagreeers when it comes to different aspects of principles or whatever philosophy or science or whatever they're in, right? They'll diametrically oppose in how they see, let's say astrophysicists. There's plenty of them that disagree with each other. The physicists that do that across the board, who disagree on how what the world is, what this universe is. You know, people have this assumption that there's just blanket, like cult-like thing that just because we quote it consensus doesn't mean that everybody, it just means the majority agrees with that. That doesn't mean that everybody agrees with it. But they still interact with each other. They still communicate with each other. They still work with each other. They still have, dinner together with each other. I don't know why we can't do the same thing. Unless we're just not being mature enough about the situation. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could say, Mike, I think you're absolutely full of crap when it comes to Bigfoot and your perspective of it. But that's not me. That's just a part of my life. It's not who I am as a human being. Hopefully, if you bother to get to know me, you realize I'm not that bad of a guy. You know what I mean?
But that's where the issue comes, is that they want to attach our belief, what we think things are, to who we are, right? Who we are as a person. But this is just such a small part of our lives, this stuff here. And we're allowed to think differently and have our own opinions. It's all good.
Right. And in no way did anybody attack Scott Carpenter, Mark Abel.
Oh, I never did.
No one.
I moved on. When I don't like somebody or what somebody does or shows, I move on. I could care less what you're doing. I talk about it here because he asked me. He brought it up. So I have my opinion about that. But I in no way go and attack people out of nowhere.
How did I miss this Ed Waterman? I must know. What was he famous for?
He was around a long time ago.
What video did he have that everyone keeps talking about that
I don't know. Nikki stopped to where? What? What did that didn't make sense?
Nikki.
Say that again, Joe.
Nikki need to stop. I don't know.
Doesn't make sense.
So, anyways, I really appreciate this hour. I know I probably I am someone who's actually in pursuit of the truth. I also know that I've lost a lot of people along the way in my pursuit of the truth. A lot of people, and people don't like what I have to say. But
I'm far from closed-minded there, Lambot. I'm far from that. I'm not going to go into the details.
Maybe Lambot is a bot. Maybe it is a bot at this point. What's this one?
Maybe. No, I'm not closed-minded. I have already said that if a Bigfoot came out of a portal, that it would change my whole thing.
No, I know this is the mentality. You're assuming it's false. No, we're not saying that. We're saying that the evidence that has been presented to us in certain areas, and me and Nick don't necessarily agree on it in those areas, but the evidence is not to point this, for even when he says a Nephilim or even says as Bigfoot, there's no evidence that there actually are Bigfoot. That's what it comes down to. It's just because he says it.
Yeah. Well, then if you say that, then I can say the same to you. You're assuming my version is false. Okay. Do you see how that works? Ooh, yeah. Both ways. Nobody's right or wrong. It's just the way we have our opinions set up. That's it.
Okay, JT, thanks for showing up and thanks for support, man. And, so I really enjoyed this 2 hours. I'm not in any way trying to stir the pot. I just like, hey, here's a person that I wanted to talk to because I know I could have this kind of conversation, that we'd both be civil with each other, that we'd share her perspective, share a little bit of my perspective. I'm not telling you to join any side or any camp or you got to belong to this or that. In fact, I would just follow your own path and follow your own understanding and do your own research to come to your own conclusions. Strongly recommend that. I mean, don't be a follower at all.
Absolutely.
Go find out if Scott Carpenter is right about the things that he's filming our Bigfoot. You go do it if you can. If you got the campaign, or go find out, do your own research. Go find out if those tree structures really are coming from Bigfoot. You could be the person that actually ends up proving it definitively that it's coming from Bigfoot. You might actually film a Bigfoot that's legitly, building a tree structure, teepee structure. I mean, just imagine who you could be. I mean, of course, you'll be persecuted by half the group, but at least, it would be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Those who are doing those persecuting type things, you got to look out for that too on both sides. Both sides, tend to attack pretty viciously, but I'm not one of them. And I know, a lot of people aren't. So you just have to take it for what it's worth and realize everybody has their own opinion. And I realize people have seen this creature. They've seen it. They don't need
I'm one of them.
all this. You've seen it. You've got your answer. You want to know more, right? You want to learn more. Where did they come from? Why? Why did this happen to you? You have so many other questions out there. And that's great. I mean, that's where all this talking and going through all this evidence is fun, and it'll always be fun. I don't really care what you're what end you're on. Have a conversation though. You can just have a conversation.
Well, I do appreciate this. And
his videos, I guess. But I have not followed him either. You're the first time I've seen you. So you have a channel, Lambot? Let me write that down because I'll probably forget. We'll check out Lambot or Lamabot. Sorry. Lamabot and Diesel.
So once again, I'm not saying that Bigfoot is not real. I've had my own encounters, experiences. I'm not even saying that Bigfoot's not building a tree structure. I'm saying nobody's seen Bigfoot build tree structures. And we don't, and this is important that we recognize that we don't just, we shouldn't just make up stuff. We shouldn't just say this is the way it is without any evidence. I mean, it's not responsible.
Oh, you don't have your own channel there, Lamabot? Okay. That's great. I know a lot of people who don't go onto social media because of all the crap. That's fine.
I can't keep up with all the comments. Shoot, I just went to go to the bathroom for a minute and came back and it's just flying. My gosh. Yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry, but if I can't keep all your comments, hopefully you guys can see it. And thank you for joining us. We've been doing this for a little over 2 hours, and I think we got our point across. I'd love to have you come back again, Nikki, and if down the road, and we'll have like a part 2 about our take about things and talk more about this and upset the cart. But we don't mean to upset the cart. We just want you guys to think about stuff
That's what, and we did, right? We got people to think about it, and it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, and just if we could just try not to have this, if we could somehow reverse this and turn this from a belief system into back to, let's find out the truth about what we've experienced.
Sure. Yep.
Maybe it's too much. Maybe there will always be too much, but maybe there'll be a core of us that will be able to have this honest conversation. And I mean, and I am going to interview people that are on both sides of the camp, and with this, hopefully, if it continues with me and JT and the Sasquatch Confessions and friends, and there's going to be people that, I mean, so far we've had 4 episodes, and I don't agree with everything in the guests that they said. I really have to a lot of times have to keep my mouth shut and just restrain myself from asking too many questions. And that's all it is, asking questions, right? I mean, all I manage is asking questions. But that's how they see things. That's what they claim. That's how they see things. It's they claim it's their experience. And I think it's important that we have this dialogue regardless.
Right.
It's
That's
regardless.
a good one. Kaiju says belief versus science. There's a good podcast there's a good show for you.
What, believe first in science?
No, versus beliefs versus science.
Well, that's what my old channel was before it got taken down. It's called Old Religion Dystopia, knowing versus belief versus knowing. Knowing versus belief. Knowing versus belief. That's what it was. Knowing versus belief. And it's always been my quest. I want to know. I want that knowledge to override the belief. If it doesn't, if I stay stuck in the belief, I've had too many experiences in life where it becomes very damaging. I mean, belief systems have ruined lots of things in my life. Whether it's religion, politics, all sorts of things, friendships, family, all sorts of stuff. They're just belief. They're nothing more than that. They can't substantiate one way or the other. You have literally persecute each other over it, and wars have been fought over it, and all sorts of insanity has been fought over. And if we just can get back to maybe a little more grounded place to be, maybe I'm delusional. Maybe that's another. Maybe that's I'm
a whole nother show.
Maybe I'm totally delusional, and then it's never going to happen. But so, anyways, let me do something here before we close up shop. This once again, Nikki. And that one image you gave me, your logo is too small. It's really small.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I probably.
We're going to use it here. Sasquatch. Yeah, it needs to be.
Sasquatch Secrets. I'm Nikki Cologne, and I have Sunday evening 5 p.m. live, and we discuss different stuff.
What about Friday?
What about Friday?
It says here live show Sunday.
Oh, that's an old. Yeah, that's an old one. I have to take that off. I used to do a Friday morning show, but I've taken that off now because it didn't have to do with Sasquatch. So,
and the reason why we ended up meeting each other because I saw Nikki on her interview on Linda Eastburns, and then a couple days later I had mine. And you'll see that we have 2 different opposing views about a lot of things, but actually we have probably in a lot of ways a lot more in common than opposing views. I don't know if you noticed that. At least so Nikki Collin, there you go. There's your YouTube channel, or your Facebook channel, excuse me. Then you have this Bigfoot Weekly thing going on, right?
Right, yeah. On my personal page, I really don't talk about Bigfoot at all. So if you're trying to be my friend, you got to talk to me first so I know you're real. And but my Bigfoot Weekly, me and Vic Gutierrez share that site, and it is closed. You just have to ask to, and I'll let you in. We use a lot of good conversations in there. And
then, of course, there's the famous YouTube channel. And if you want to get really upset and agitated and also think and all that, it's a good channel to go to. Honestly, will make you think, and you really. I think it's not a bad thing. So, to actually critically think about your position in life. So, I think this has been a good show. I thank you for your patience once again, Nikki. Thank you for your time.
stories. Yeah. It's all good.
Those, if you haven't, on my end, make sure to subscribe to her channel and support her. And, you know, try not to be so tribal with all this thing. Just try not to be so tribal about this whole thing, and just try to be more understanding of each other and the topic at hand.
Right. Everybody's on their own journey, and you got to realize that. And yeah, some people are a little more sensitive than others. So can't do anything about that.
And I can't keep up with the comments, but thank you for all the flying comments and all the. And Diesel, thank you for joining. Uncle Bones too. Llama, Bot, even you. Appreciate your point. Actually, you helped the show. Actually, if you realize that. Randy Harrington. Who else is there? Who am I missing? Mr. Lenny Beck. Good to see you again. He's had an encounter himself. Raptor and Grasshopper. All you folks, thank you. And with that, I must close shop. So I will end the stream now. You stay on a little bit, Nikki.
All right.
And here we go.
Bye, guys.